Hi everyone, welcome to Geekgasm TV. My name is Gray and this is my first video for well over a year, but hopefully it's a bit of a kick-off point for content creation. And I wanted to start with a video game that I've been wanting to play for ages, but have felt like maybe it wasn't really made for me. I've bounced off of Souls-likes for years. Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro, tried them all, didn't really enjoy any of them. And some of that is just about how hard they are, right? And that is the appeal of the video games. That's why they are popular, is because they have an element of gatekeeping to them. Like there is a skill level that if you don't hit, you can't play the games. And that, for me, was a problem. And the older I get, and I'm now 52, the harder it gets to get into video games like that. My reactions aren't what they used to be, and I'm really aware of that. And yeah, I decided that games like that just weren't going to be accessible to me, which is a real shame because there's a big part of me as a gamer that really wants to be able to play Elden Ring. But we'll come to that. But Lies of P, which is a Souls-like, so in that genre of video game, the developers decided that they wanted to listen to their community and they have put some difficulty settings into their game. And I wanted to test whether that made Lies of P more accessible. And then I guess ultimately, depending on how I get on with Lies of P, that might determine whether I decide to have a go at Elden Ring. And we'll come back to that towards the end of the video. So I haven't finished Lies of P by any stretch of the imagination, but I have played through the first 3 big bosses, and I figured what might be useful for people or maybe just interesting to watch is just how I got on in those 3 fights. I've had to edit quite a bit, as you'll see in the video, because one of the fights took me about an hour and 40 minutes to get done, and no one needs to sit through that. So I was live streaming while I did it. I did my best to turn off my camera and any notifications. You might see a few little chat messages pop up throughout the video. But yeah, this is my attempt at Lies of P, and I'll give you a bit of a voiceover as we go through. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the video. So I should be clear about how this works on Lies of P in terms of how the difficulty settings work. So you've got 3 difficulty settings. The hardest difficulty setting is the standard difficulty setting for the game. So if you bought the game when it was launched or when it didn't have difficulty settings included, that's the normal difficulty setting. So I was like, I know that's going to be too hard for me. I'm just going to struggle. I'll get frustrated and I'll bin the game off after the first boss. So I figured what I would do instead is put it on the medium difficulty setting. And that's where Fight 1 and Fight 2 and half of Fight 3 kind of take place. That's the level that I decided to at least start the video game in. So that's what's happening with this first fight. Honestly, I don't die too often here, only twice. So I'm going to cut from the fight we're watching right now where I do die, and we'll get to the part where I win the fight. I kind of don't have too much trouble with this fight. I messed up a few times. The bosses can get this like white highlight around their health. I failed to notice that a couple of times while I was fighting him, but it didn't seem to matter too much. And although I still lose a fair bit of health, and I'm very close to actually dying here, I do manage to knock him down. So boss 1 dealt with fairly easily, I guess. So boss 2, I kind of feel like I cheated at, unwittingly, kind of, I guess. At the very least though, I wanted to show this opening sequence because I thought it was a really cool way to lead into the fight. But that aside, you can summon an AI assistant, I guess, like an NPC to fight alongside you during fights. And they're called Spectres, and I died 3 times, I think. Did okay, but was struggling. And I'd noticed this little bowl thing that sat beside you on the entrance to the fight. And the fourth time I went into the fight, as you can see, I used it. And then the fight was really easy, and I won it on that very next go. Now that isn't to say that there aren't moments where things get hectic. But broadly speaking, the Spectre just kind of takes the kind of tanking role, I suppose, for the fight, and takes the majority of the hits, and means I can kind of manage my health properly with the, I think it's just 3 health potions that I had at this point in the fight. I'm calling them health potions because I can't remember what they're actually called. But yeah, broadly speaking, despite it feeling like I was cheating and the Spectre taking the majority of the hits, eventually I knock the thing down and I win the fight. And it kind of felt like I had bypassed the fight to a certain extent. But the mechanic was in the game. I'm guessing it was there to start with. I'm not 100% sure. I should probably check that. But yeah, fight done. Boss 2 out of the way. Let's move on to the third fight. Again, the fight has a really cool intro. And initially, I thought I was doing okay. In fact, I could pretty regularly get through the first phase of the fight, even on that medium difficulty that I was playing it on. But the second phase of the fight, I really struggled with. On my first attempt here, you'll see I'm using the Spectre because I'm thinking that's a good idea after fight 2. This is how you win this game, this is how I do it. This fight was completely different. The Spectre was a lot less useful for me. He, on this attempt, definitely doesn't get me through the first phase. But broadly speaking, he would die at the end of the first phase, and it was the second phase that I had the biggest challenge with. That said, there were still many, many deaths in the first phase of the fight. Eventually though, I started getting to the second phase of the fight, which was really different from the first. A lot of it is kind of at range and you're just dodging. And that was kind of fine, but then when it came to the close combat stuff again, he would pull his 2 big attacks. So when the bosses flash red, that means you have to dodge or you have to time a parry perfectly. And perhaps not surprisingly, that's not something I'm brilliant at. And so I would regularly take one of those big hits. And at this point of the fight, as you can see, I have no health potions at all. The boss also has this big attack that you can see going off right now, where he crouches down and basically sets fire to the arena. And you can dodge it by getting behind a pillar, but if you're locked onto the target, it's quite hard to move independently of that or click the unlock from the target so that you can move more freely. I found that really, really difficult. So after banging my head against the fight for about an hour, I decided to lower the difficulty even further. And the lowest difficulty setting is called Butterfly Guidance. But what became pretty apparent pretty quickly is that actually the fight pretty much stays the same. What seems to change, and this is a personal observation, I might not be 100% right about this, but what seems to change is that you take less damage and you deal a bit more damage. But beyond that, the fight felt like it stayed kind of the same. So I was still struggling on the same bits. I just needed to get good. And eventually, about another 40 minutes later, I got good enough to beat the fight. Honestly, some of it just felt kind of like luck, but I wasn't using the Spectre, so I felt like I'd earned it. And what I would say is this: the game is probably more accessible with those lower difficulty settings than it would be otherwise. Does it make it crazy easy? No, not by any means. Despite what it says on the easy difficulty setting, it basically says it's a story mode. It's still not easy. There's no way it could be described as easy, but it does seem to just give you a little bit of an advantage in the fights. So I'll probably play the rest of the game in that easiest difficulty setting and see how I get on. But I am planning to complete it, or at least continue to play. And if I decide that actually it isn't for me further on, I'll probably make a follow-up video just to talk about what was the bit that broke me. But I'm planning to stream more of it. I'm intending for it to be a part of my content over the next couple of weeks on Twitch and YouTube. Come watch if you like. I'm streaming Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. Not exclusively with Liza P, but streaming lots of stuff. But Liza P is definitely going to be part of that content over the next couple of weeks. I would love to finish it, but we'll see how we get on. Do I think that I could have a crack at Elden Ring? Maybe, I guess, is the answer. There's a part of me that thinks if the price drops significantly on Elden Ring, then I will give it a go. But for now, I'm going to let you enjoy the rest of the fight as it comes to a close. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. And don't forget to press like and subscribe, because there's going to be a lot more content to get into over the coming months. Holy